What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fine, Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking through this early morning slate. We've got a split slate today with two pretty good seven gamers. The other one starts at 6:20 Eastern, I believe, and we will be live at 5:30 Eastern to go over that.
Yep.
Yep. I got a busy one ahead of me. I got that I'm driving down straight to LA. I'm helping my girlfriend move into her new house, and it's gonna be a long day. But I'm ready for it. I've been up since 5. Got ready for all the slates and all the golf, and we'll do a show on golf coming up after we do the main slate after this. Sheets. I had a decent night. I cashed okay in the 888 with a Houston stack, but it was enough to get there with my other pieces. It's always nice when you get the one-offs who put up like 35 fantasy points and you're kind of in good shape. How did you do? And what do you think of this slate?
I went 0 sail. I went 0 crochet, and I lost anyway. I also, unfortunately, went 0 gray. I mentioned I was going to take out all those guys with the possible pitch count issues, and Gray only had 24 outs.
So yeah, he just got there and I think he threw like 80 pitches or something, and he still had a monster score.
Yeah, so I did not. I did have a decent amount of Criswell, but not paired with the right people. So I did not do as well as you did, and we'll ready to get after it today. So you did a good job of going over what we have coming up. The golf is tomorrow morning. We have MMA. I will do in that video tomorrow, and then maybe a betting breakdown and more stuff, and then there's NASCAR, all kinds of content.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk about the early slate.
Do you want me to share my screen and we can go through the games?
You want to do it? Yeah, sure.
Unless you want to. I didn't know how easy it is for you where you are.
Whatever you want, I can try.
Yeah, if you can do it easily, great. If not, I'm happy to do it.
Why don't you do it so I can go back and forth to my projections? Be easier that way.
That works for me. All right, so here we got, and again, let me just refresh it because I have a feeling the pitching ownership between, and I pulled yours and Goldie's up earlier. Let me just grab this. I believe that's Goldie's projected ownership. And your guys' are more in line with what I would think, but like if you look at SaberSim's projection, they have Canning as the second highest owned pitcher on the slate, and I don't think that's going to happen. That's just my take.
Well, that was my first thing I was going to ask you is about him, because we stream these pitchers against Seattle all the time, like every slate, and we stream righties against Seattle every slate, and yet we also stream batters against Canning every slate.
Yeah.
So without even looking at the hitting yet, again, I ran projections. I was going to look at it live and build live. Is usually when you have a $5,700 pitcher anyway, you need to think about what that's going to do for you. Like if the 5,700 guy is kind of fishy, and Canning is definitely fishy, right? Are there going to be big stacks that playing Canning kind of affords you? Because I'm looking at some of the other pitching options, and they look a little more normal, I guess. I have Canning at 21% ownership. I guess that sounds right. But I guess it depends on what hitting is out there. First of all, let's talk about this right off the bat. Like, what do you think of Canning? If you want to talk about that first or no?
Yeah, I think look, it's okay if you want to go that route. Personally, I don't see a whole lot of reason to, unless you're playing what should be the very chalky Red Sox. And I'm just gonna take a look at your ownership versus. Yeah, I trust your guys' more. I trust yours more than I trust SaberSim at this time right now. Just I do think it's going to be most heavily on Boston, followed by Houston, and I think that's just the way that it goes. So I think if you wanted to play Boston, playing a guy like Canning makes some sense. But I don't want to play Boston on a 7-game slate where I think they're going to come in higher owned than even anybody's projecting them.
The other high owned stack, which I want you to comment again. I'm just looking at these for the first time.
Sure.
So I'm getting as far as like ownership, right? Projections is Red Sox, Houston, and then a ton of St. Louis. Tell me about why that would be. Do you like St. Louis at all? Like, what's that all about?
People love the stack against Martin Perez.
Okay.
And they've had a better reason to this year than they have in previous years. I'll tell you that. There was that one year where he was stacked against like every day, remember? But he ended up he was like the second best pitcher at the All-Star break. He ended up being an All-Star.
Yeah, he was like vying for Cy Young as everybody was stacking against him every game.
Right, exactly. It was sort of like the Brady Singer from a couple years ago. But anyway, so that's why the Pittsburgh game, like it is 84 degrees in Pittsburgh. The winds are sort of crosswinds. It's nice hitting day, I guess. Not a great hitter's park in general. I think both sides of that game should, have some ownership. And I think that they're going to end up partly higher owned because we probably won't have a Red Sox lineup. We probably won't have an Angels, a Mariners. We won't have probably a Houston lineup by the time the slate locks. And I think in that situation, usually you do see people gravitate a little bit more towards the earlier stacks if they don't know what's going to be happening by lock. But usually the slates are at 7 Eastern or whatever. They're not usually at noon or whatever, 12:20 Eastern time. So that's partly why I could see them getting more owned. They also have a reasonably high total. I didn't get to them, but I have no issue with it. If I had to pick one side of it, I guess I'd pick Pittsburgh over St. Louis. But all the historical lefty mashers from St. Louis, we haven't really seen enough of it for me to totally trust it. And I don't know. I'm not as high on St. Louis in general as most people. Well, not as most people are, but as every time they face a lefty, that it seems like everybody goes that direction. I'm just taking a quick look at Perez's BVP real quick to see if there's anything stands out. Nothing really. He hasn't had enough of a sample for me to go there. 4 strikeouts though and 57 at bats is not a great sign. Anyway, I probably can get in trouble by showing ESPN's page by accident, but yeah, I think it's pretty easy to do. Like, first of all, I don't think you have to fully stack if you want to play like, a 3-3-2 or a 4, whatever. I think this is actually not a bad slate for it. And I keep going back to that. There's these guys on every slate, like it's a Bobby Witt or whether it's Ohtani, that just put up like usually, they have games where they just put up enough points where like it's like last night I had Lawrence Butler, who I think outscored my entire Houston stack, and I still cashed in the 888. And it was a full 5-man. So I'm just throwing it out there that I don't think that you absolutely have to. I personally am leaning on, just for pitching, going with the best guys. Just the ones I feel are the best would be Nola, followed by Brown, followed by Steele. That's how I've got it ranked. I'm lower on Castillo than the field is going to be. And if you even just look at the strikeout props, like you can see Castillo with the lower one than even like Hunter Brown is the highest one on the slate. Pavetta is actually second. I understand the idea of using Pavetta, but I actually think that if you're talking about getting off the board in Colorado is always a good idea. If Colorado's low owned and it's 93 degrees, feels like a pretty good spot to use them. So I'm trying to get pieces of the Boston Colorado game. So I'm probably not going to get to Pavetta, but I like the Brown, Nola, Steele. It is a bad hitting day and a good for pitchers in Chicago. You got 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from center. It's only 74 degrees. So I am on board with the Justin Steele right behind Brown and Nola for me.
At the risk of bringing up too many guys,
I've only named 3 that I like, so you can name as many as you want.
No, but even guys that you said you're going to be under on. So I'm gonna just bring up another guy who, I mean, he was kind of my hero once or twice this year, and he's against a team that you almost want to stream against nowadays in a really scary way. Can I interest you in any Frankie Montas?
I get it. Definitely with the way that the Braves have been against righties lately, it's like appealing enough. He has looked like pretty blah. He had like one great game in Colorado, basically. He really, his results just have been really tough to deal with. But yeah, I get it. I mean, what are you really gaining, versus the other guys? I'm always happy to eat more chalk at pitching, so I don't really care about low ownership unless I think they have tremendous upside. And I guess he kind of fits the mold. He's a guy to consider. If I was multi-entering a bunch of lineups, I definitely would have a couple pieces of him.
I only mention it because he's like the only guy I see here that's like under 10%.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see where Justin Steele's really ends up. I have a feeling that he ends up higher owned than he's being projected. That's just a guess, and he had a rough outing his last time out, but he has I would say that he probably has the highest upside on the slate along with Nola, Steele. So that's just sort of, I just feel good about those three guys. And I don't mind the idea if you want to mix in Pavetta. I'm just lower on Pavetta, lower on Castillo, lower on Canning, lower on, I guess I'm not going to have any win-ins, but that's pretty much, it for me. And
speaking of Montas for a second, I'm looking at my overall like rankings of all the players and stuff, and I'm running into that guy you mentioned yesterday, who's still 2K, from Atlanta,
yeah,
the Nacho Alvarez, and he's projecting to be like 20% owned.
Yeah, he's 2K.
Yeah. I'm just looking. There's a couple of 2K guys here, so I guess that's one of the reasons why I guess the Cardinals are going to be sort of popular. I get Carlson at 2,500.
Yeah.
Robles is 2,500. I'm just looking at some of these 3Ks. Chaz McCormick is under 3K. Michael Taylor is 2,300. I'm just looking at like another St. Louis guy, the catcher, the Pages or Pajes or whatever, however you want to pronounce him.
Yeah. So just to go through, I mean, look, these guys are I get it price wise and all these things. Dylan Carlson has been basically like the worst. He's like the worst fantasy player around. He's hitting like 200. He has no power whatsoever, 0 home runs, 0 stolen bases. I'd rather dance with the devil I don't know than the one that I know sucks. I guess is the way to put it. And the Pages or Pajes, again, I don't really know. I'm going to guess Pajes because of the Pedro in the first name. But yeah, like I get it. They have some cheap pieces. I would much rather just I like the Atlanta stuff. I like Alvarez. I would play a Duvall. I like the cheapos from Atlanta better than St. Louis, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, let me take a look now, I guess, at my actual stack rankings. I literally haven't built a single lineup yet, so I'm going to do that in a minute. Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, looks like if I was just figuring out who's going to get the most fantasy points. So like, in other words, like if I could play Canning, if I felt like it. So it looks like, yeah, Boston and then Houston, St. Louis. What about then there's Colorado again. Try that. What about Philly? You like that at all if you can get to them?
Philly, so yeah, that's actually, against in a bullpen game after it's dudding out yesterday, maybe that's actually a good spot to attack it at really high like prices, which is going to keep their ownership lower. Yeah, you see an unowned Philly team in a bullpen game in a 7-game slate. I think that you could make a decent case. Now it's a good bullpen they're facing for what it's worth. But I guess it's the best offense on this slate overall. Yeah, it's the best offense in if you just raw whatever on this slate. So you're getting no ownership on the best. I think that's a good idea. I think you know what I'm going to do, because I've got some stats and things that I like, but I'm going to throw, I think, a Philadelphia lineup into there. I kind of like that idea. For me, I really like Houston, but again, it's hard with a full stack when you're going to see. Actually, you guys have it a little bit lower owned than I would have thought. So I think Houston is where I would target. And then I like Seattle. It sucks. I don't want to play 5 of them because there is like no power upside. So it's not just that they lost Rodriguez. It's not just that JP Crawford's out. Not just that Ty France has been so bad he's not even supposed to play today. There's a reason all these guys are as cheap as they are. Don't get me wrong. But I am more than willing to go against Griffin Canning with just about any bats. I don't love that it's indoors because during the day you want to try and take advantage of some of the day games and stuff. But I like Seattle and Houston to build around. And what I would do is in my non-Hunter Brown lineups, and Hunter Brown's been awesome, I think getting Oakland is a very reasonable option today.
I was just going to bring up Seattle. I'm glad that you did. And again, like you said, it's just not a very appealing stack with Rodriguez out, but for other reasons, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. I could certainly in non-canning lineups, or maybe even in a canning lineup, be down with like a Cal Raleigh one-off maybe. I know he could hit the ball. Doesn't matter what the freaking stadium is.
Yeah.
And he could turn it around from the left side. And I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I mean, they lose so much. I mean, they don't have too much power anyway. And I was watching them, man, because I had some of them against they face Tyler Anderson like every third day, looks like.
Right.
I mean, they just freaking flail at the ball, man. I mean, they really do. like there's a reason why like everybody streams all these pitchers against them. I mean, they really don't give an F. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is, they don't give an F, and they don't have any power either. It seems like it's really strange. It's like it's like when they do get a hold of one, it's like a ground ball. And yet they're a good team because, like you said, they have like one of the best pitching staffs.
Right.
So
I did want to touch on what Eric Froelich is mentioning, and I appreciate that, your old buddy. I forgot that Ty France, he wasn't released, but he was designated for assignment. So he's not going to be available. So, but it just means like one of these, whether it's Vossler or Tyler Locklear is going to be in there. And I'm okay with just taking chances just on the anti-canning stance. But I did want to ask Eric, what Mitchell Parker, I don't even know who Mitchell Parker is. I don't know where.
Yeah, you do. Mitchell Parker is amazing. Isn't he the guy from Washington, you mean?
But Mitchell Parker's not on this slate, though, as I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That's what. Wait, yeah. Sorry. That's I didn't know like if there was another one. I mean, it's a pretty common name, so it's like, am I missing something here? Because like I couldn't find him. Anyway, yeah, their farm system. This is a good point that Eric's making. Like their farm system is supposed to be really good, and they called up 4 of their top 5 guys. But how that's going to translate and win? Well, it hasn't translated so far, but this is a day where maybe it's a good day a good argument to play them. Again, you won't have their lineup most likely by the time the main slate locks, but when we get it, we might see it shaken up quite a bit. So I'm kind of curious to see, because I've got Seattle guys in guys who are projected to bat like first or second for Seattle. They literally could bat 8th and 9th, and it wouldn't surprise me if they want to just give these young guys a go. So we'll see. Their lineup is probably the most interesting one that I'm waiting on. K9 Bronco says he loves Justin Steele, can see 8+ Ks today. I love that too. I don't understand entirely where the anti-Steele love is gone. I don't know why he's not a little more popular here, to be honest with you. Or I don't know why he's not right there. I guess he's popular enough. I just thought he would look like a phenomenal play today, and I thought he'd be right there with the top guys. And I guess he is down there. He's in 5th. They got him 5th ownership wise. I think it should be like 2nd or 3rd for him. I think he's definitely top 3. And go ahead.
No, that's fine. So does anybody want to guess? So I ran a Saber Sim build without running Sims yet, and I was going to run one with Sims in a second. But just using projections and using their whatevers. As far as stacks go, this is just on DraftKings. I would be getting, now again, this is based on 50 lineups. So let me just change that to 150. So if I was playing 150, which I wouldn't, but I'd be getting 80% of the aforementioned St. Louis Cardinals, followed by Cincinnati and Houston, and then Boston. That would be whatever. And with respect to pitching, again, this is making no kind of adjustments to anything. It looks as though I'd be getting 432% Griffin Canning. Maybe not exactly that much, but quite a bit. Like 87% Canning, followed by Brown, Nola, and Montas. So again, when you do this, when you just run SaberSim, you run 150. Again, you don't really diversify. It just gives your top rated lineups. So you'll want to either limit an amount to having somebody, or go min uniques, 2 or 3 or something like that. That's probably the best way to handle that. But what I'm going to do is, like, for example, and I'm just kind of talking through this. So if I instead just went to min uniques and got a little more variant, I'd still be getting a whole bunch of Canning and maybe a little less St. Louis, but then Cincinnati, Boston, and Houston. I'm curious to see what my Sims will get me.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that I would be getting less St. Louis because St. Louis rates to be popular. I love talking this stuff out, so it helps me kind of understand, what the Sims are trying to do if I try to predict beforehand. I would also imagine I'd be getting maybe some Seattle, right? But then again, Canning is just showing up because he's 87%. He's not showing up because he's necessarily popular. Let me just see. So if I ran my Sims right now, which I just did.
I think Canning is going to be more popular than the field has projected. I think it'd be 20+% owned at least.
All right, so now this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is how Saber Sim is like kind of in a mood. Okay, so I ran the Sims with just their stock thing, and as far as stacks goes, I'd be getting 48% if I played 150 of a team. I would love for someone to try to guess
Cincinnati.
Who that would be. Now you're saying Cincinnati. I'll give a couple of people a couple of chances. Like one should be sort of obvious because of the way Saber Sim operates.
So wait, there's two teams you're getting 48% of, or one?
One of them I'm getting 50% of.
Okay, so you have two. So 150, 148. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I would imagine that I think that Cincinnati is like a great sneaky team today. Obviously, you mentioned St. Louis as what people are going to do. I just don't. I hope that it's not the Cubs or Brewers, because I wouldn't touch either of those teams
because of the wind.
Yeah, and it's not like it's even that crazy, but it's just you could see. I mean, it's a 7.5 total, and it's just a little off. But I would have said Cincinnati, Colorado. But for me, it would be Oakland and Cincinnati as the get different stats.
So the two sim plays in the relay throw, one you mentioned, and that one is the 50% is Milwaukee, like you mentioned. Not you mentioned you wouldn't go near because of the weather and all that stuff.
Also, it's like the worst lineup they put out all season long.
And and the second one, which should have come as no surprise, honestly, are the Angels against Castillo.
Yeah, so they just going complete leverage.
Yeah, complete leverage. So again, nobody says you have to do that, right?
No.
But that is, and again, the field that I'm using is just their stock field. Now, if this makes a difference, if I instead used like the walk-off home run, like the 555, let me see if that changes anything.
Yeah.
Then like. Still it likes Milwaukee, but now then Seattle starts kind of popping up a little bit more. And Colorado, I don't mind. I definitely don't mind Colorado. The Milwaukee thing, again, do me a favor, not that I wasn't paying attention, but I wasn't paying 100% attention. Talk through again. So the Milwaukee we don't like, number one, just their lineup is terrible today. Well, is their lineup out yet?
Wait, for who? For Milwaukee? Yeah, so it's just, I mean, I'm saying it's terrible because it's mostly the guys who bat at the bottom of the order, and like Hoskins is in there, but he hasn't had a great season. But they have no Yelich. That may be the worst of all of their season is exaggerated, but they definitely went with the righties thing. They have like Joey Ortiz, who's been batting between 6th and 9th for them, batting leadoff. Hoskins batting 3rd, usually bat 6th or 7th for them. Churio usually has been batting mostly 9th or 6th. He's batting 5th. And then you've got Garrett Mitchell, a lefty, Eric Haas behind the plate. Well, I guess they've got Contreras too, but it's just not the most exciting lineup for me personally.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
A bunch of guys I would like for filler pieces on a stack that I'm using, and not the guys I want to focus my stack around. And they're all that except for Contreras and Hoskins. I guess Adames, but yeah, not as exciting for me personally on that one.
But the one thing is that I'm not getting not much of any, but I'm not overweight on Boston, no matter however I do this, which makes me feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah, this Milwaukee thing is becoming a little bit of an annoyance. No, actually, you know what? Milwaukee. Seattle, the Colorado thing is interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the Colorado makes a lot of sense. I think that for the good focus stacks, I think that Houston, Colorado are like my favorite. Again, not off the board, but like my favorite ones in terms of the mini stack type of thing. I think Seattle makes a lot of sense. And I think that if you're getting the off the board, somewhat leverage-ish things would be Oakland and Cincinnati for me. I wish I was playing more lineups though. I'm not playing enough to get there.
Yeah. So there's a lot. That's the thing about baseball, man. There's just a lot of things, a lot of ways you can go, as opposed to say, like the NBA. You know what I mean? Like the NBA, there's not a lot you can do. I mean, really. I mean, you could, but you can't get there's not that many options to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And be happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love, by the way, that there's a lot of people in there and asking questions. Please click the like button, guys. It's great. It's great to see all these questions in here because I think that these are good things that we don't get on regular shows enough because we're overlapping sometimes. And
give me a couple.
Here's one from AJ, which is, I have a take on this. This will be Steele's third start against Milwaukee this year. Does that hurt or help him? He's faced them a lot, and he's faced them in the past too. My thing in general, I would say that's a downgrade to the pitcher. Now, at the same time, this is a different lineup than they've run out in the other times that he's faced them. So, again, it's not enough for me to make a massive difference. But in the long run, I think the more a pitcher has to face a team, if you give me a pitcher I like almost as much, I'll give that guy an edge over a team that's somebody you're facing in division because they're prepared for you a lot better. So I like that question a lot. What do you think?
If you're interested, I didn't see this. Brian Reynolds is out. Is that right?
I think Reynolds is out today. Yeah.
They have him confirmed on Saberson, which is a little annoying.
It's interesting. I wonder exactly what happens. I saw him as out, but
yeah, it says here Reynolds was a late scratch. Okay, as of 12 minutes ago.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Christian Yelich is on the DL. Yeah. Just looking at everything else. And then Rick Gill asked the favorite stacks. For me, it's Houston, again, Seattle, but more on the mini side and full stacks. I actually like the idea that Sheets had about Philadelphia, but I think Cincinnati and Oakland are two very interesting, like way off the board stuff that you can get involved in.
Is I see Ryan McMahon questionable as well?
Ryan McMahon, let me just see. I don't know where. I mean, I have him projected in, but he did sit the other day, but he played yesterday, I believe. So okay. I don't know what's going to happen with that one. That's a big one though, because that makes that lineup look a lot worse if he's out. And he's kind of the piece you want the most there. Is Tyler O'Neill's out? Did we get official work? I don't have these lineups, and people keep. Oh, there we go. We do have a lineup there. So no Tyler O'Neill for the Red Sox. I guess 2 home runs wasn't enough for him.
No, he got benched.
He got benched. But they got. Oh my God, the Red Sox are going to be even more popular. They're just cheaper now. Yoshida batting third at only 4,200. Dominic Smith at 3,600 batting fifth. Romy Gonzalez they put in there against a righty, which they don't usually at 4K. So you're going to have a cheaper Boston stuff, which is going to make Boston even more popular than they're being projected. What else do we have? I'm getting little notes here. A lot of activity. A lot of activity, like Brian Reynolds scratched, Christian Yelich on the DL, Tyler O'Neill out of lineup. It's just it's a getaway day, so it kind of happens. And by the way, for heads up, tomorrow's only a morning slate. There's no afternoon slate. There's a 2-gamer.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Just
that's good actually.
To give a heads up on that one.
Oh my God, Tyler! Yeah, look at all these guys. Tyler O'Neill, Connor Wong is out too.
Yep. And we'll get into this when we talk about the later slate, which I plan on playing a little bit bigger than I did the main slate. I'm sorry that I did this slate, but you're going to see a lot on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Just be ready for totally different lineups. Like everybody does it. Especially the first week after the All-Star break, you're just going to see, like, for example, Will Smith is going to look like the best catcher or one of the interesting catching options later today. I think there's a really good chance Will Smith doesn't play, just that kind of stuff. I actually have a theory, and maybe it's a paranoid Dodger theory, that so every day that Will Smith would usually get his rest, it seems like they're facing a lefty, which he crushes left-handed pitching. And so they still give him the rest, but it's just kind of funny to me. It's like, how come he only he has to rest against all of his best matchups every day? Okay, here's a question from Don, and he says, "Do you think that De La Cruz will get a stolen base today?" Those are tough things to judge in general. Except, I would say
the answer is yes.
The answer is if I had to bet yes or no, and
Yes.
you're giving me even money, I would definitely take a yes, considering the fact that he basically steals a base every other day. I think this is a better matchup than most, and he's probably going to take off. It's as simple as that. He just loves to run. So,
I mean, can you do it? Now, again, this has probably been thought of. Can you do a correlated parlay like De La Cruz gets a hit and a stolen base?
well, it's interesting because I don't know if you can do that specific one, but there's other guys who I've seen cards. I've seen it on like pictures, like they bet specifically on a walk and a stolen base for a player. But that was it. One walk, one stolen base, and no other and under 1.5 total, or I guess it's under 2 total base, whatever it was, or under 2.5 total bases, whatever the number was. But I've seen people make weird parlays. I just don't know what sites they're doing it on because I haven't seen that on normal sites before.
Yeah, this is going to be like you said, for like kind of a nondescript early slate or whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try to
16 minutes. So and the first sets of games. I mean, like you got 2 of them starting at 12:20. Actually, one started 12:20. Cincinnati, Atlanta, but that's a decision. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
When are the Cubs? That's 2:20. St. Louis, Pittsburgh. Who's pitching for St. Louis? Anybody good? No, of the Liberatore. I was only asking because if Brian Reynolds, that him being out is enough to affect the projection of the St. Louis pitcher. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think you really want. Yeah, I don't have any interest in Liberatore. Liberatore is basically like there's another thing that we've got to deal with today is like a lot of these guys are just pitching, 1 inning. Like he pitched 1 inning in his last start. Actually, I think he might have come in out of the bullpen there. It's been weird because it's hard to track everything when it's right around the All-Star break because teams do weird, different stuff like that. Anyway. All right, so let me see what else I got here. I'm just trying to get my builds in because now some things have changed a little bit. Houston, but then you get the Alvarez. Okay. All right, I need to save $100. So Hunter Brown, you are no longer in my main lineup. It is now going to be Justin Steele.
There it is.
So I'm ready to roll with that, and we'll see if a 3-3-2 can come through. But it's in the single entry, so it's not. I actually think that those are better tournaments to play those types of things. In the single entry. One thing I used to do with great success, and I don't really know why I got away from it, except for that it sort of became like, oh well, that's not the thing you do anymore. Is I would program when I would script anything. I would program like my 10 favorite hitters of the day, or my 10 favorite, or the 10 best home run props, or whatever, and just make sure to have like 30% of those guys, and make sure I was okay with 4 men, not only 5 men, and it seemed to work out really well. And these are the kind of slates where I think taking that kind of a chance would do that. If you're doing that, it would be just to throw it out there, because I did consider that this morning. I was like, oh, maybe I'll play more lineups, but like I would play guys like any of the Boston guys are obvious. So like Duran and Devers being the most. But I would play like Ellie De La Cruz. I would try to get a bunch of Ellie De La Cruz just as a play. Whether
right.
or not you're stacking. I would try to get who else would I try to get? Oh, Jordan Alvarez. I would try to get as a play today. I'll probably end up with some of the Robles just because he's batting second at 2,400, and that's more of a price thing. But then in like home run stuff, if you're not using Hunter Brown, like play some of these A's, play Blade, play Langoliers, play Lawrence Butler, who's been the hero of the DFS world.
The Pete Crow Armstrong is he out?
Pete Crow Armstrong, I do not know.
Okay.
Let me see. He is out. Yeah. He's not in the lineup today.
Okay.
And let me just do this really quick. And we are going to build a quick Oakland stack just to Oakland, and I want to do Oakland, Colorado, but I need another pitcher. I wanted to use one lineup with the vet. I guess I'll use one with Castillo.
McMahon. So Seattle's lineup is not out. Colorado's lineup is not out. Houston's lineup is not out. So you're telling me the Cubs lineup is out? Oh, Cubs lineup is out.
Yeah. Man.
Okay.
So let's just go through this. I'm just basically ready to go. I'm just finishing up my builds here. Colorado.
I'm going to be changing so much stuff over the course of the day.
Yeah.
When these lineups change. And like right now, I mean, I'm getting some Atlanta, so I want to keep that.
Yeah.
I mean, you start off with Kellenic and Alvarez, you know what I mean? Like, and then fill it in with some power.
Definitely. I like that. Whoops. So, yeah, I'm gonna just build this one stack because I like it a little too much. This Oakland thing and Colorado.
All right, so this is what we're gonna do. So we'll come back. Let's give everybody a chance to do their shit, whatever it is, and then at 12:30, when hopefully we're kind of, let's call it 12:35, because then the St. Louis game will have started already. And we'll come back at 12:35, and then we'll go over the main slate.